There's been a lot of talk of war lately. Hell, there's been a lot of war lately. Some jackasses are even trying to talk up civil war. Young men, like moths to the flame. I was raised in a place they once called Bleeding Kansas. The border war between Missouri slavers and Kansas anti-slavers was raging years before the rest of the country joined in. Whatever principles they started fighting over were soon forgotten. No one was safe. Neighbors raided neighbors, farm families maintained round-the-clock watches and slept in shifts. You see, every war has two fronts. There's the one the armies and the navies wage. Then there's the one being fought behind the lines, the one waged by predators who thrive on chaos against the innocent who simply have things they want. Don't say it can't happen here. It already has. And in a situation like this, your best option may be to bug out. If you don't have a horse, then you're going to need an analog automobile, something that can weather the chaos. And that's what these reports are helping us find, the ideal set of wheels for societal collapse, whatever the cause. Today I'm reporting on the quintessential American truck, the Ford F-150, specifically the 1975 to 1979 models. They were called Dentsides because of the crease in the body that ran the length of the truck. The Dentside Fords are legendary. I'd venture to say that the majority of them are still on the road today. If you drive one like I used to, you'll get tired of fighting off unwanted buyers. So, let's strip the Dentside down to its frame. Let's run it through the 17-point protocol I designed to measure it against an end-of-day scenario. Let's find the best drivetrain Ford offered in the Dentside, and let's see how it scores. Let's run an end-of-days report.
There's a storm on the mountain. There's a hell on the highway. The desert's like an ocean. The sky's like a minefield. I can feel the earth shaking beneath my feet. I'm just looking for a new life, and it sure ain't easy. But I gotta believe that I'm on my way. Oh, I'm on my way.
The Dentside is a light-duty truck that put on a few pounds, and that was intentional. Ford introduced the F-150 to exploit a regulatory loophole. By pushing the gross vehicle weight rating over 6,000 pounds, Ford classified it as a heavy half-ton, allowing them to bypass the mandatory use of catalytic converters. This preserved the truck's mechanical simplicity, and it allowed it to run on varied fuels without choking on exhaust components. And regardless of your opinion on air quality today, that versatility and simplicity might just keep you alive in the future. During the 75 to 79 production span, Ford offered a handful of drivetrains. You could get the 300 cubic inch inline six, or the 302, 351M, 400, and 460 V8s. Now, if you're familiar with this show, you know that the first order of business is to throw out the automatic transmissions. Don't underestimate the value of being able to pop a clutch to get a vehicle started. Besides failing at that, automatic transmissions rely on complicated hydraulic valve bodies and very specific hydraulic fluids. They can't be repaired in the field, generally speaking, either, and they suck for crawling. Next on the chopping block were the pre-March 1977 351M and 400 V8s. The engine block cast at Michigan Casting Center before this date had a catastrophic fatal flaw, where the water jackets cracked in the lifter valley. Fixing this requires precision industrial metal stitching, and that's impossible in the field. .302 And 460 V8s were disqualified. They were primarily limited to two-wheel drive configurations from the factory, severely degrading their off-road utility. Now, if you can find a 4x4, you still lose wood gas as an alternative fuel choice. Gasifiers can't produce enough syngas to fill those big cylinders effectively, so they're both out. That still left some really good candidates, though. The post-1977 351 MV8 and the post-1977 400 V8 both had drivetrain scores over 90 when paired with manual transmissions and the NP205 transfer case. But our Apex candidate scored even higher. The 1975 through 1979 Ford F-150 equipped with a 300 cubic inline-six engine, the NP435 four-speed manual transmission, the NP205 transfer case, and manual steering. That's our Apex candidate. The scoring protocol I came up with seems to pull straight sixes out of the pile when a diesel isn't available, and sometimes even if. Okay, let's see the scores. When you build a machine that just needs to move 6 pistons straight up and straight down, and you put stabilizing bearings between every one of them, you get a motor that can hit 600,000 miles before a major rebuild. On transmission durability, an 87.32, the cast iron NP435 has a massive 6.69 to 1 granny gear, and unlike other manuals, you can fully disassemble and rebuild it in the field without a hydraulic press. You're going to see this same transmission in a bunch of my reports. The exact same transmission was used by Ford, Dodge, Plymouth International, and Chevy GMC for a span of over 30 years. So not only does it score high in its own category, it also boosts the parts interchange score in ID number 9. That's the exact same story for the MP205 transfer case. Because it was so reliable, everybody used it. My timing equation is pretty simple. If it's gear on gear with no known problems, it scores 100. Double chain, single chain, and belts score lower with a big frown on engine interference in the event of failure. In the suspension test, we got our first B-. Well, the way I set up the equation kind of makes it hard to ace this one. A high score in articulation is usually going to cost you in simplicity, so I'm still waiting to find a vehicle to rise above that average. In that light, if you grade it on the curve, the F-150 is in the top of class, or damn near. The steering test. Cars need to do 3 things, really. They need to start, they need to stop, and they need to steer. If your steering goes, you lose everything but your PTO. The F-150 uses a 24-to-1 manual steering box, which is totally self-contained, meaning no power steering pumps, fluids, or blown hoses. Can it handle an electromagnetic pulse? The factory Durspark system is a minimalist analog design heavily resilient to EMP, similar to the 85 4Runner in episode 1. Sure, Faraday cage, some spare Durspark components, but you should also have a distributor coil system on standby. Now, as mentioned earlier, the Dentside scored nearly perfect in parts interchangeability. It's sharing parts with the rest of the F-Series, the Bronco, and the Econo line. This makes rural America basically a decentralized parts depot. And of course, the transmission is shared across many brands, not just makes, so even a Chevy can save a Ford in that department. In related news, it also aced the aftermarket test. There are a lot of parts and upgrades on the shelf right now. Kinetic reach measures how far you go before you need to refuel. If you have dual fuel tanks, you'll be full at 41 gallons total. The math says you can go 600 miles before you need to source more fuel, and that's pretty impressive. Now, this is a real truck that can do real things. It has great payload and towing capacity. Straight sixes are notoriously good with alternative fuels, but you're going to need an ample source. At the lowest score, we see 14 to 18 miles a gallon with an empty bed, so you're going to need quite a bit of whatever it is you're combusting. A nearly perfect score in field maintainability at 98. The 6-cylinder motor leaves enough space in the engine bay to kick open a lawn chair, and 90% of repairs only require basic SAE hand tools. The brakes are respectable under normal loads. It's a hybrid setup using vented front discs for cooling and enclosed rear drums. Just pull over to let the rear end cool if you're driving mountain roads. The Dentside has 2 independent power takeoff ports, one on the transmission and one on the transfer case, so you can run winches and generators. When you average the individual scores, we get our final total output, or FTO score. The Dentside comes in at 83.78, so the Suburban still holds the podium right now. FYI, the Suburban was actually rescored from its original FTO. I made a small adjustment to the scoring protocol, and it lost about 3 points. It was a minor tweak, and the Forerunner wasn't affected, so I made the executive decision in the interest of precision. The formulas are set in stone now, I promise. So, what vehicle should I run through the gambit next? North American releases only, please. I don't want to muddy the water with obscure Swedish military transports, okay? They'd fail on parts availability anyway. Hey, if you're from Kansas City or St. Louis, sorry I burned down your cities. Taos, New Mexico gets overrun by aliens in the next episode, so make sure to subscribe. Leave a comment if you disagree or I missed something. I'm only human, and AI kinda sucks. So this has been Casey Jones for the End of Days Report. Thanks for riding along.